Alright guys, what is going on? And in this video we're going to be talking about classes, alright? And what a class is just a structure of code that that has methods and attributes, and specifically attributes. That's the most important part to it, alright? And so, and here's what I mean by when I say that, alright? So for example, if we had a class called player, right? So we're going to define our class like this. Every player has a unique set of characteristics to themselves, but they're in the same category, right? For example, they have a unique first name, they have a unique second last name, points per game, they have a college they went to, a height, assists per game, something like that, all right? And so we can do this by first defining an initializer, all right? So we're going to define our attributes to each player, init like that. It'll take way too much code to hand code every single player, right? So what we can do is we can just make some arbitrary attributes like as variables like first, last, right? First, last name, maybe height, college, points per game, right? If we want a point guard, assists per game. All right, but let's just about points per game just to keep it nice and simple for you guys. All right, and so what we can do, we can start, since we wrote out our attributes right here, we have to put them in our initializer. So self.first is equal to first, self.last is equal to last, self.height is equal to height, self.college is equal to college, right? We want to get some good college players. Self.ppg for points per game is equal to ppg. All right, so we defined everything, our attributes in our initializer. All right, we're not yet going to put a method. We're going to, or I'm sorry, functions. We're going to do that later on. All right, but for now, what we can do is now we can create an object of this class, right? So, when we were creating variables for strings, we were creating an object for the class string. Now we're creating an object for the class player, all right? And so we can do that by, we define a variable. Let's call this number one pick is equal to, then we call out our class. And then we're going to start to put in our attributes right here, right? So maybe number one pick might be Stefan, you know, Stefan first for first name, Curry is last name. We have to do this in order, by the way. First, last, height, college, points per game. All right, so his height, I think, is something like, oh, we have to do our doubles. Something like 6'3", I think. And then college is, he went to Davidson. And then points per game, something like 20, I'm assuming. All right. So we just create an object of the class player, all right? And we can do this a bunch more times if we want to create more players, okay? So let's just do 5, okay? So let's create more players, maybe Marvin Bagley. You can go ahead and skip this part. I'm just, briefly going through this. Just gonna put in a random points per game, maybe 25, something like that. Now let's put Zion Williamson. Got like 28, I think. And then we're just creating random players right now. Random basketball players. Alright, and what is one more? What is one more? Say John Wall. Awesome. Alright, so now we just got all of our players right here, right? So we get Stephen Curry, Marvin Bagley, Zion Williamson, Jeremy Lin, and John Wall, okay? And obviously we have to change this. Oh wait, number one pick. We just have to give each variable different names. We don't want repeating variables. That would give us some errors. Alright. So let's say there we have 5 players in our this year's NBA draft, okay? And so now what we can do is we can just print out our players. Isn't that awesome? So if we want to print out Stephen Curry, for example, right? Print #1 pick dot first plus #1 pick dot last. All right, and we can just go ahead and print Stephen Curry's name out here. And there we go. We can do this for other players as well. We can do #2 pick and so on and so on. But if you've noticed, this is kind of a lot of code right here just to print out some attributes we have for our player, all right? And so this is where methods come in to our classes, all right? So if we wanted to do this ourselves, what we could do is just create a method and then call that method from our print function. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do that. So we're going to say define, and then we're going to create our own method. So for example, draft player, let's just call that. We're going to put in our curly braces. It's just going to add self automatically, so you don't need to worry about that. And then we can just say return self dot first plus self dot last. All right, and then all we need to do now is we can just say draft player. All right, so we can say #1 pick dot draft player, and that's all we have to do, and it'll print out our Stephen Curry for us. All right. And so, I created 5 of them for a reason, right? Because if we wanted to create logic into our program now, for example, we could do something a little bit more neat than this. Alright, so let me delete this right here. Alright, so what we could do instead is, we could create a list of players, right? So we're going to create this list. We have #1 pick, we have #2 pick. Right, we're just creating a list. #3. Just going off the screen right now. So this is our list of players, #1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or just 5, right? And then we're just gonna say, I'm a manager. I just want to draft some Duke players, right? Because we got some good guys on Duke. So we're just gonna say, or we're gonna go back to our for loop over here. For player in players, if player dot college, right? Because we want to draft some Duke players, is equal to Duke. Then we want to draft the player, or we're just going to print it out here. Say player dot draft player. All right, and so we can go ahead and do that right here. And look at that, Zion Williamson. We created Zion Williamson twice. Oh yeah, see, we wrote #3 pick twice over here. So yeah, it prints out everything we want, and so we can keep adding more logic to this. But in a nutshell, this is what classes are, right? So we have our attributes, we have our initializer, we have our methods in our class, and classes are usually a lot more complex than this, but I just showed you the basics here, all right? And so after watching this video, I want you to go, explore more on your PyCharm about classes, and I hope, right, this is my goal, for you to connect classes to your reading to files and writing to files, because I think that's a very powerful aspect of Python programming. All right, and I'll see you guys in the next video.